A year that has
The year
necessarily
that has
kept people
necessarily
apart
kept people
has,
apart
in many ways,
has in
brought us
many
closer.
ways
Across the
brought us
Commonwealth,
a
my
Commonwealth
family and I have been
have
inspired
been
by
inspired
stories
by
of people
stories of
volunteering
people
in their
volunteering
communities,
in the communities,
helping those in need.
helping those in need.
In the United
In the
Kingdom and
United
around the
Kingdom
world,
and around the world,
people have risen
people have
magnificently
risen
to the
magnificently
challenges
to
of
the
the year,
challenges of the
and I am
year,
so
and I'm
proud
so
and
proud
moved
to
by this
move
quiet,
by this
indomitable
quiet,
spirit.
indomitable
To our young
spirit.
people in
To our
particular,
young people, and
I say thank you
I
for the
think
part you
I
have
say
played.
thank you, thank you.
This year, we
This year, we
celebrated
celebrate
International Nurses Day
International
on the
Nurses Day
200th
on the
anniversary
200th
of the birth
anniversary
of
of the
Florence
birth of
Nightingale.
Florence Nightingale.
As with other nursing
Nursing
pioneers like Mary
pioneers like
Seacole,
Mary Seacole,
Florence Nightingale shone a lamp of
shone a
hope
lamp of
across the
hope
world.
across the world.
Today, our
Today,
frontline
our
services
frontline
still
services
shine
still
that lamp
shine
for
that
us,
lamp for us,
supported by the
supported
amazing
by the
achievements of
amazing
modern
achievement of
science,
modern science,
and we owe them
and
a
we
debt
owe
of
them a
gratitude.
debt of gratitude.
We continue
We
to be
continue to
inspired
be
by the
inspired
kindness
by
of
the
strangers
kindness
and draw
and
comfort
draw
that,
comfort
even
that
on the
even
darkest
on the
nights,
darkest
there is
nights
hope
there
in
is
the new
hope
dawn.
in the new dawn.
The Queen's Christmas Broadcast by Across necessarily kept people apart has, in many ways, brought us closer. Across the Commonwealth, my family and I have been inspired by stories of people volunteering in their communities, helping those in need. In the United Kingdom and around the world, people have risen magnificently to the challenges of the year, and I am so proud and moved by this quiet, indomitable spirit. To our young people in particular, I say thank you for the part you have played. This year, we celebrated International Nurses Day on the 200th anniversary of the birth of Florence Nightingale. As with other nursing pioneers like Mary Seacole, Florence Nightingale shone a lamp of hope across the world. Today, our frontline services still shine that lamp for us, supported by the amazing achievements of modern science, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. We continue to be inspired by the kindness of strangers and draw comfort that, even on the darkest nights, there is hope in the new dawn.
This year, we celebrated International Nurses Day on the 200th anniversary of the birth of Florence Nightingale. As with other nursing pioneers like Mary Seacole, Florence Nightingale shone a lamp of hope across the world. Today, our frontline services still shine that lamp for us, supported by the amazing achievements of modern science, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. We continue to be inspired by the kindness of strangers and draw comfort that, even on the darkest nights, there is hope in the new dawn. In the United Kingdom and around the world, people have risen magnificently to the challenges of the year, and I'm so proud and moved by this quiet, indomitable spirit. To our young people in particular, I say thank you for the part you have played. Remarkably, a year that has necessarily kept people apart has, in many ways, brought us closer. Across the Commonwealth, my family and I have been inspired by stories of people volunteering in their communities, helping those in need. For Christians, Jesus is the light of the world, but we can't celebrate his birth today in quite the usual way. People of all faiths have been unable to gather as they would wish for their festivals, such as Passover, Easter, Eid, and Vaisakhi, but we need life to go on. Last month, fireworks lit up sky around Windsor as Hindus, Sikhs, and Jains celebrated Diwali, the festival of lights, providing joyous moments of hope and unity despite social distancing. Every year we herald the coming of Christmas by turning on the lights, and the light does more than create a festive mood. Light brings hope.
Queen's Christmas Broadcast by Queen Elizabeth II.
The second.
Every year, the Queen's Christmas Broadcast. Across the Commonwealth, my family and I have been inspired by stories of people volunteering in the communities, helping those in need. In the United Kingdom and around the world, people have risen magnificently to the challenges of the year, and I am so proud and moved by this quiet, indomitable spirit. To our young people in particular, I say thank you for the part you have played. This year, we celebrated International Nurses Day on the 200th anniversary of the birth of Florence Nightingale. As with other nursing pioneers like Mary Seacole, Florence Nightingale shone a lamp of hope across the world. Today, our frontline services still shine that lamp for us, supported by the amazing achievements of modern science, and we owe them a debt of gratitude. We continue to be inspired by the kindness of strangers and draw comfort that, even on the darkest nights, there is hope in the new dawn. Guaranteeing a certain kind of year by Steve Pavlina. One thing I love about interesting commitments is that they can guarantee that I'll have a certain kind of year. This requires that I pick a commitment that is close to 100% under my direct control, so there are no significant risky external points of failure. This year, I guarantee that I do a lot of writing by committing to publishing something new on my blog every day of the year. I guarantee that it would be a year of high internal reflection and high creative output. I guarantee that I do the equivalent of writing several books through the medium of blogging. These are just the surface aspects of the commitment. It's one thing to look ahead to another year with goals and intentions. But goals and intentions don't guarantee that you'll actually have a different kind of year. Truly committing yourself to the action side is very different than defining some result you like to see and hoping for the best. Goals are great, but setting a goal guarantees. I've noticed that something shifts within me when I make a commitment that I take seriously. Think seriously. There's a moment where the weight of what I'm going to do sinks in, because I actually believe and expect that I'm really going to do it. I don't have to hope for a certain kind of a year. It feels like it's a done deal before it starts. Instead of optimism, I feel certainty. Guarantee a certain kind of a year by Steve Pavlina. One thing I love about interesting commitments is that they can guarantee that I'll have a certain kind of a year. This requires that I pick a commitment that is close to 100% under my direct control, so there are no significant risky external points of failure. This year, I guarantee that I do a lot of writing by committing to publishing something new on my blog every day of the year. I guarantee that it would be a year of high internal reflection and high creative output. I guarantee that I do the equivalent of writing several books through the medium of blogging. These are just the surface aspect of the commitment role. It's one thing to look ahead to another year with goals and intentions, but goals and intentions don't guarantee that you'll actually have a different kind of year. Truly committing yourself to the action side is very different than defining some results you'd like to see and hoping for the best. Goals are great, but setting a goal guarantees nothing. I've noticed that something shifts within me when I make a commitment that I take seriously. There's a moment where the weight of what I'm going to do sinks in, because I actually believe and expect that I'm really going to do it. I don't have to hope for a certain kind of year. It feels like it's a done deal before it starts. Instead of optimism, I feel certainty.
I've noticed that something shifts within me. I notice that something shifts within me when I make a commitment that I take seriously. There's a moment where the weight of what I'm going to do sinks in because I actually believe and expect that I'm really going to do it. I don't have to hope for a certain kind of year. It feels like it's a done deal before it starts. Instead of optimism, I feel certainty. It's one thing to look ahead to another year with goals and intentions, but goals and intentions don't guarantee that you'll actually have a different kind of year. Truly committing yourself to the action side is very different than defining some results you'd like to see and hoping for the best. Goals are great, but setting a goal guarantees nothing. This year, I guaranteed that I do a lot of writing by committing to publishing something new on my blog every day of the year. I guaranteed that it would be a year of high internal reflection and high creative output. I guaranteed that I'd do the equivalent of writing several books through the medium of blogging. These are just the surface aspect of the commitment though. It's one thing to look ahead to another year with goals and intentions. This requires that I pick a commitment that's close to 100% under my direct control, so there are no significant risky external points of failure. One thing I love about interesting commitments is that they can guarantee that I'll have a certain kind of year. Guaranteeing a certain kind of year.
Guaranteeing a certain
kind of year
by Steve Pavlina. One thing I love about interesting commitments is that they can guarantee that I'll have a certain kind of year. This requires that I pick a commitment that is close to 100% under my direct control, so there are no significant risky external points of failure. This year, I guaranteed that I do a lot of writing by committing to publishing something new on my blog every day of the year. I guaranteed that it would be a year of high internal reflection and high creative output. I guaranteed that I'd do the equivalent of writing several books through the medium of blogging. These are just the surface aspects of the commitment, though. It's one thing to look ahead to another year with goals and intentions, but goals and intentions don't guarantee that you'll actually have a different kind of year. Truly committing yourself to the action side is very different than defining some results you'd like to see and hoping for the best. Goals are great, but setting a goal guarantees nothing. I've noticed that something shifts within me when I make a commitment that I take seriously. There's a moment where the weight of what I'm going to do sinks in, because I actually believe and expect that I'm really going to do it. I don't have to hope for a certain kind of year. It feels like it's a done deal before it starts. Instead of optimism, I feel certainty. What might This year, as the holiday approached, I felt myself feeling sad, like a dark cloud was over my head. How would we have any kind of family celebration? Given how I was raised, my sadness, my reaction, made no sense to me. Growing up, I don't remember my parents ever celebrating Hanukkah. I do
I
remember the
do
Christmas
remember the
tree.
Christmas tree.
I remember the gifts under the tree,
on the
and
tree,
sitting in
and
front of the
sitting in
tree in
front
the
of the
dark,
tree in the dark,
watching the lights on the
watching the
tree
lights
go
on the
on and
tree
off.
go on and off.
So,
So
I've
I
often
have
wondered where
often
my
wondered where my
commitment to
commitment
observing
to
the Jewish
observing the
holidays
Jewish
with my
holidays
children
with
came
my
from,
children came
as
from,
that was not a
if that
part of
was
my
not part of
childhood.
my childhood.
I've always had
I've
a
always
strong
had a
desire
strong
to teach
desire
my
to
children
teach my
about their
children
Jewish
about their
heritage
Jewish
and their
heritage and their
traditions.
traditions.
What My Children Have Taught Me About Hanukkah by Bella Hazan. What my children quiet.
Why?
This year,
This
as the
year,
holiday
as the holiday
approached, I felt
approached,
myself feeling sad, like a dark
like a
cloud was
dark
over my
cloud
head.
was over my head.
How would we have
How
any
would we
kind
have
of
any
family
kind of
celebration,
family celebration?
given how I was
Given how
raised?
I was
My
raised, my
sadness, my
sadness,
reaction,
my reaction
made no sense
made
to
no
me.
sense to me.
Growing up,
Growing
I
up,
don't remember my
I don't
parents
remember
ever
my parents
celebrating
ever
Hanukkah.
celebrating
I do remember the
Hanukkah. I
Christmas
do
tree.
remember the Christmas
I
tree.
remember the
I
gifts
remember
under
the
the tree,
gifts under the
and
tree,
sitting in
and
front of the
sitting in
tree in
front
the
of the
dark,
tree in the dark,
watching the lights on
watching
the
the
tree
lights
go
on the
on and
tree
off.
go on and off.
So,
So
I've
I've
often
often
wondered where my
wondered where
commitment
my
to
commitment
observing
to
the Jewish
observing the Jewish
holidays with my
holidays
children
with
came
my
from,
children came
as
from,
that was not a
and
part
that
of my
was not
childhood.
part of my childhood.
I've always had
I've
a
always
strong
had a
desire to
strong
teach my
desire to
children
teach my
about their
children
Jewish
about their
heritage
Jewish
and their
heritage
traditions.
and our traditions. Growing up, I don't remember my parents ever celebrating Hanukkah. I do remember the Christmas tree. I remember the gifts under the tree and sitting in front of the tree in the dark, watching the lights on the tree go on and off. So, I've often wondered where my commitment to observing the Jewish holidays with my children came from, and that was not a part of my childhood. I've always had a strong desire to teach my children about their Jewish heritage and our traditions. This year, as the holiday approached, I felt myself feeling sad, like a dark cloud was over my head. How would we have any kind of family celebration? Given how I was raised, my sadness, my reaction, made no sense to me. Hanukkah is in the middle of a pandemic. Shutdown is certainly different. My gifts for the grandchildren are at my children's home, brought there by different delivery services, wrapped by others and hidden away and waiting for them to be given after the candles are lit. This year, there won't be any celebration at my home, and the house feels so empty and quiet. What my children have taught me about Hanukkah.
What My
What my
Children Have
children
Taught Me
have
About
taught
Hanukkah
me about Hanukkah
by Bella Hazan.
by Bella Hazan.
Hanukkah, in the middle
Hanukkah
of a
in the middle
pandemic
of a
shutdown,
pandemic
is certainly
shutdown
different.
is certainly
My
different.
gifts for the
My gifts
grandchildren
for
are at my children's
grandchildren for my
homes,
children's home,
brought
brought
there
there
by
by
different
different delivery
services,
services,
wrapped by
wrapped
others,
by
and
others,
hidden
and
away
hidden
and waiting
away
for them
and
to be
waiting for them
given
to be
after the
given
candles are
after the
lit.
candles are lit.
This year,
This
there
year,
won't be
there
any
won't be any
celebration at my home,
celebration
and the house
at the
feels
house
so empty
and
and
so
quiet.
empty.
This year, as
This
the
year,
holiday
as the holiday
approached, I felt
approached, I
myself
felt
feeling
myself
sad,
feeling
like
sad,
a dark
like a
cloud was
dark
over my
cloud
head.
as over my head.
How would we have
How
any
would we
kind
have
of
any
family
kind of
celebration,
family celebration?
given how I
Given
was
how I
raised?
was
My
raised, my
sadness, my
sadness,
reaction,
my
made
reaction
no sense
made
to
no
me.
sense to me.
Growing up,
Growing
I
up,
don't
I
remember my
don't
parents
remember
ever
my parents
celebrating
ever
Hanukkah.
celebrating
I
Hanukkah.
do remember
I
the
do
Christmas
remember the
tree.
Christmas tree.
I remember
I
the
remember
gifts
the
under the
gifts
tree,
on the
and
tree,
sitting in
and
front of the
sitting in
tree in the
front of the
dark,
tree desire,
watching the lights on
watching
the
the
tree
lights
go
on the
on and
tree go
off.
on and off.
So,
So
I've often
I
wondered where
often
my
wonder where
commitment
my
to
commitment
observing
to
the Jewish
observing the Jewish
holidays with my children
holidays
came
with my
from,
children came
as that
from,
was not a part of
with
my
that
childhood.
childhood.
I've always had
I've
a
always
strong
had a
desire to
strong
teach my
desire to
children
teach my
about their
children
Jewish
about their Jewish
heritage and their
heritage and
traditions.
their traditions.
billion, a wrecking ball in the lives of Americans already struggling, she wrote in the post on Medium. Economic losses and health outcomes alike have been worse for women, for people of color, and for people living in poverty. Meanwhile, it has substantially increased the wealth of billionaires. Scott's gifts this year approach $6 billion, which has to be one of the biggest annual distributions by a living individual to working charities, according to Melissa Berman, Chief Executive Officer of Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors. Berman said Scott's donations show that it's possible to give large amounts quickly without requiring nonprofits to jump through a lot of hoops to get the money. The size of Scott's gifts may also disprove a common theory that it's hard to deploy vast amounts of money without running into trouble or proving wasteful.
This pandemic has been a wrecking ball in the lives of Americans already struggling, she wrote in the post on Medium. Economic losses and health outcomes alike have been worse for women, for people of color, and for people living in poverty. Meanwhile, it has substantially increased the wealth of billionaires. Scott's gifts this year approach $6 billion, which has to be one of the biggest annual distributions by a living individual to working charities, according to Melissa Berman, Chief Executive Officer of Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors. Berman said Scott's donations show that it's possible to give large amounts quickly without requiring nonprofit to jump through a lot of hoops to get the money. The size of Scott's gifts may also disprove a common theory that it's hard to deploy vast amounts of money without running into trouble or proving wasteful. The world's 18th richest person outlined the latest contributions in a blog post Tuesday. Saying she asked her team to figure out how to give away her fortune faster. Scott's wealth has climbed $23.6 billion this year to $60.7 billion, according to the Bloomberg Billionaire Index, as Amazon.com Inc., the primary source of her fortune, has surged. Maxine Scott is giving away her fortune at an unprecedented pace, donating more than $4 billion in 4 months after announcing $1.7 billion in gifts in July.
Her fortune has surged. The pandemic has been a wrecking ball in the lives of Americans already struggling, she wrote in the post on Medium. Economic losses and health outcomes alike have been worse for women, for people of color, and for people living in poverty. Meanwhile, it has substantially increased the wealth of billionaires. Scott's gifts this year approach $6 billion, which has to be one of the biggest annual distributions by a living individual to working charities, according to Melissa Berman, Chief Executive Officer of Rockefeller Philanthropy Advisors. Berman said Scott's donations show that it's possible to give large amounts quickly without requiring nonprofits to jump through a lot of hoops to get the money. The size of Scott's gifts may also disprove a common theory that it's hard to deploy vast amounts of money without running into trouble or proving wasteful.